Our last speaker for this session is Dr. Stephanie Pigorsch. Dr. Stephanie Pigorsch, a research assistant in the Social Literature Department of the German Central Institute for Social Issues, DZI Berlin, and managed the digitization process of Sand and Stars. At DZI, she works on the information infrastructure for social work. The department maintains a journal database, a specialized library and historical archive, as well as the peer-reviewed journal Soziale Arbeit. This journal is the successor to the Deutsche Zeitschrift für Wohlfahrtspflege, which Siddy Wronsky once edited. Stephanie is also a practitioner of social work and youth work and community work. She wrote her dissertation on the topic of participation and social exclusion as key issues in social work. The title of her lecture is The Digitization Process, an international project to make the manuscript accessible in 3 languages, German, Hebrew, and English, and the research challenges involved. Stephanie, please.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya, for the introduction. And yeah, I'm also happy to be here, so thank you very much for the invitation. And I want to shed light a little bit on the digitization process and how we managed to work with the 3 manuscripts and how it also enhanced scholarly knowledge about Siddy Wronsky's novel. So we heard during the research activities of Ayana Halpan, she came across the primary source rather by chance in the Central Zionist Archives. And probably at this time she did not imagine which way the novel should take. We all didn't imagine, I think. But once the novel was discovered, the excitement about it never stopped. And so the concrete idea of digitizing the novel arose in the context of the Stolperstein event for Siddy Wronsky in October 2019 in front of a former home in Berlin at Barstraße 23. And so we at DZI recognized pretty early that this would be a very special project about one of our institutional key pioneers and an important social work innovator. The idea was born to launch an interinstitutional and also interdisciplinary project in order to make the manuscript of the novel Sand and Stars by Siddy Wronsky digitally accessible to the public and also for further research. We also take this as a starting point for the further involvement. So what is the nature and scope of the archival material that you can so it's located in the Central Zionist Archives in Jerusalem. I don't know if the Deputy Director Simone Schlachter is right here as well. Or we meet her later in the evening. Okay. The manuscript is presented there in 3 languages, in German, Hebrew, and in English. It can be assumed that the German version was written by Siddy Wronsky herself. It consists of 188 typewritten pages. The source also includes the full translation of the manuscript into both Hebrew and English. The Hebrew manuscript is 84 typewritten pages long and the English 109 pages. And both translations were likely made shortly after the completion of the German version. The Hebrew version was translated, like Yehudit already told, by the well-known Hebrew educator, writer, editor, and translator Joseph Achai, and the translator of the English version remains unknown. The condition of the manuscripts was or is good, so it was could be assumed that scanning the material was not a problem. The Central Zionist Archives agreed to the planned publication of the novel in a digital format and freely accessible to the public and to further research. There were no rights on the part of the descendants, as Siddy Wronsky died in 1947, more than 70 years ago. And nevertheless, it was clear that we had to clarify in the project whether the original copyrights and ancillary copyrights applied. So then we went in search for funding, and we found what we were looking for with the funding program for the digitization of cultural assets of the state of Berlin, supported by the Berlin Senate Department for Cultural and Social Cohesion. The funding program is implemented by the Forschungs- und Kompetenzzentrum Digitalisierung Berlin, shortly DIGIS. And the funding volume was 40,000 euro within a time schedule from August 2022 to December 2023. But in fact, we worked on it a little bit longer than this. So, who was involved? The project team, as you can see, consisted of Ayana Halpan, Yehudit Avnir, Diana Lau, Burkhard Wilke, and me, but we were pretty tightly cooperating with other institutions, such as for the side of the digital humanities with the Eliyahu Lab of the University of Haifa, led by Eliezer Baumgarten and counseled by Sinai Rosinek, which I'm very happy to meet in person for the first time today. And the lab is an incubator for the promotion of digital projects in all areas of humanities, and it has significantly supported our project in the conception and implementation of the digital edition. And furthermore, the Central Zionist Archives, where the manuscripts are located in Jerusalem, they really opened for us and supported our project, and thankfully, especially words of thanks, especially for the deputy director Simone Schlachter. So, okay. Before I will show you this, I will shortly go back and introduce our how did we do it exactly? Like, how do we do this interdisciplinary research project using digital tools and methods? So you can frame it with the change in the media and the boom in information technologies that also affect the digitization of works relevant to historical research, not only especially in research in the context of social work, but in general. And so the field of digital humanities remains experimental and yet rapidly expanding, linking conventional humanities methodologies such as historical hermeneutics with digital tools, and allow scholars to curate and explore online collections as well as analyze large data sets. The original plan was to produce a classic book edition of Sand and Stars. As we all also know, and as we also do, like you can see the book lying right there, but we did much more, because the funding brought us the option of a digital edition. And so we took the chance and gained deep insights into a really interesting sub-area of the digital humanities. So there, a wide range of methods is available, spanning from quantitatively oriented approaches to in-depth qualitative analysis. The tools we used in our projects, there are many, many more, are programs like Transkribus, Recogito, or also TEI. They are particularly noteworthy because they integrate both quantitative and qualitative approaches. And through a multi-step process, these tools facilitated a deeper analysis of all three documents, thereby enriching the analysis Ayana Yehudit priorly made. The result, in addition to the analysis, is a digital and openly accessible edition, which also supports future research projects. So what did we do exactly? First, the three language versions had to be scanned. The preparation of usable OCR scans of the German, English, and Hebrew manuscripts took place in the Central Zionist Archives due to historical and archival reasons. Secondly, we needed to correct the results of the scanning, and due to the fact that the manuscripts were written using a typing machine, but also shows handwritten corrections supposedly made by Siddy Wronsky herself. So the results were a little poor to some extent. So we used the possibility of AI, of artificial intelligence, with the platform Transcribus, a tool for the automatic text recognition. So we trained some OCR models tailored to our manuscript, and this led us to improved recognition, and so we could reduce errors and speeding up the process. So we first tried our various models. A little side note, for us in the research team, it was all new things to do and to learn, yes, so we're also skilled ourselves kind of with digital methods. So, but then with training these OCR models, we in the process corrected all the mistakes that were made by the automatic text recognitions. But further, we needed to correct some mistakes by hand. Each correction was preceded by a consideration within our team. Some corrections were simply clear. Where Transcribus didn't manage to recognize the text, we changed the obvious mistakes. Others were crucial to decide, so we established transcription guidelines in the team. And in short, they were, first, we would not mention information on the manuscript itself, such as tea stains or dog ears, which is quite common in other digital editions as well. Second, we would correct typos and spelling mistakes manifested in the original manuscripts. Third, for the digital edition, we would keep the strike-throughs and changes in the original as they were. You can see this here on the screenshot of our work. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can see it, but here you can see this. Supposedly Siddy Wronsky herself made a strike-through and corrected it, and so these changes are still visible in the digital edition. So this was a kind of time-demanding process for the whole team. Each one concentrated on the specific language skills to contribute. And by doing and discussing about the insights into the manuscript and the scientific contextualization that Ayana and Yehudit already did in advance were widened and deepened also. So, and then other steps followed. The enrichment, which was mainly also what Sinai did with very much amount of work, I can estimate. Please tell us more about later how you worked on this. So Sinai then structured the XML-TI text at a sentence level. Why at a sentence level? This allows us to align the three language versions in the digital edition so that you can hover over one sentence and see the exact same sentence in the other language versions as well. So you can also see similarities, differences. At some points in the manuscript, the sentence was not translated. You can see this at this point, and this is very specific and very cool within the possibilities of the digital edition. And in order to enrich the data text-wise, we conducted a workshop to work on our annotation policy. So we wanted to go into the data. So we decided annotations were made regarding identification, like which names, which places do we recognize in the specific manuscripts, also additional information that are explanatory for the content, for clarity, also annotations regarding interpretation. So what does that mean? What does it show us from the today's point of view? And also analysis annotations, like, for instance, when Ayana saw, okay, there's something with the concept of spiritual motherhood is reflected here at some extent. We would also annotate this. And additionally, phrases of particular interest for us, for example, the context of concepts related to social work, to gender, to Zionism, were also encoded. So this is visible in the digital edition as well. The XML text was then enriched with context and content. We explicated references, concepts or phrases of particular subject interest. So, for instance, here you can see that Siddy Wronsky wrote about a silent woman, a stille Frau. It can be assumed that Wronsky meant Henrietta Scholz, an American-born Jewish Zionist leader and one of the founding figures of social work in Israel. I hope you can see it. This is the original manuscript in German, and then we made a note in the digital edition referring to what we, from the scientific point of view, were interpreting, thinking, analyzing what Siddy Wronsky considered to mean. These rich information are within the digital edition, and in the book edition, it is shown in the scientific essay at the front of the book. Another enrichment with context that also mainly Sinai did really great work in making this visible as well. For instance, the recognizing of sources such as poems and literature. Here you can see two passages. The first one on the Siddy Wronsky says, zum Augenblicke dürfte ich sagen, verweile doch, du bist so schön. So at the moment I might say, linger, you're so beautiful. And this supposedly, or this is a quote from Goethe's Faust. Second example, she writes, you still have a long way. Here. Ihr müsst noch lange, I make it in English. You still have a long way to go in the desert. Our road is steep and our path is hard, which supposedly refers to a text by Chaim Bialik. And so we also inserted a note in the digital edition. When we all did that, we can now see that we have an edition that is being published right now. And so we're very proud to present this digital edition in a TEI publisher environment, enabling parallel reading of the three manuscripts. What can you do there? If you, for instance, click here on this point, you will get all the contextual information in the notes, like I just showed you. On the right hand, you will find a table of contents where you can also click and pick out the different chapters of the book. And there's also the possibility of deciding, do you want to see all the 3 manuscript versions? Do you only want to read the Hebrew one? You can also, you can display, they make the display suitable for your options, for what you want to do with it. So, and it is open access, which was also very important for us and also the funding partners. But also, we published a classic book edition in collaboration with publisher Nomos in Germany. We decided to clear the strike-throughs Siddy Wronsky made in the digital edition in order to achieve a more novel-like reading experience. And we would be very, very happy if you had a look at it. And to come to an end, I would shed some light on the methodological benefits we were experiencing during the research process. Because we sometimes realized that this approach is still a little special for historical research in social work. So in Germany, as I can see, it also has relevance in methodological terms. Especially the joint work on the 3 language versions enabled a digital, multi-perspective approach to the data. The decentering of the perspective and the collaborative thinking and teamwork were encouraged. And the team acquired new analytical, digital, and also information technology skills, while also expanding interdisciplinary communication competencies. We first had to know which words do we use for doing this very big thing. So this also made us learn more about communicating interdisciplinary. And the ability to jointly compare the similarities and differences across the different language versions also advanced the analysis, revealing aspects that would otherwise have remained invisible, or at least would have at least be much more difficult to uncover. So, but despite these advantages, the use of digital tools such as TEI has posed several challenges for our project as well. The encoding process is complex. It requires in-depth knowledge of both historical context and also technical aspects, which can be for sure a barrier for researchers with limited skills, either on the one hand or the other hand. The work is very resource intensive, requiring significant time, womanpower in our case, and infrastructure, making it less accessible to smaller projects. Despite these limitations, we see a very great value in its potential for the historiography of social work. And so, thank you for